Had a little bit of a
Take
technical
two.
issue, but
Right.
so welcome. Thank you for joining us. If you are watching the Day After Sunday live with us right now, make sure to say hi in the comments. If you come across this later on our podcast channels, we hope you enjoy it. And if you missed worship yesterday, we started our Lent series called More Than Just a Day. So if you did not get a chance to worship with us, there is still a chance for you to do that. You can check us out on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. We would love for you to worship with us anytime, any place. That's the beauty of this virtual space. So today I am with Faron, who is our accompanist extraordinaire, our keyboardist, and with Dexter, who is our AV technician extraordinaire.
There you go. There you go.
So
we were talking about in take one, what am I called? And I go, as
yeah.
long as you put tech in there and a little bit of audio video, you can mix it however you want to. You could add extra words and stuff
right.
too. It's nice.
Yeah. AV tech beast.
Yeah,
extraordinaire.
whatever you happen to be doing at the time.
Yeah.
Slash
Right.
technician.
Right.
Yeah.
So yesterday, like I said, we kicked off our Lent series, and we're focusing on, we're kind of breaking down chronologically as best we know. You know, we're walking through the Gospel of Mark and his last two chapters of his book. He breaks down in a lot of detail all of the things that Jesus does in his last day, and it's a busy, busy day. So we're going to spend the next 5 weeks journeying with Jesus. But today I wanted to really dive in because we have an opportunity to talk with you guys about more of the behind the scenes of like how we plan what we do, right? How we choose the music, why it fits or doesn't fit, you know, what we do with the styles. So Faron, I gotta say, your postludes have been just one of the bright spots of my life during this pandemic. I don't know what that says about my life during the pandemic.
Well,
but yeah, I mean, it's like, how do you choose what you play each week for the postlude?
Well, it changes from week to week, and I try to keep my own feelings out of it because. But I think what I do is I'm thinking about current events, maybe what's happening in the world. You know, sometimes people pass away, famous people have passed away. And I mean, this has been going on for so long that I feel like so much has happened, you know, and we're so focused on the pandemic all the time that, you know, we forget that other things are, you know, the world is still turning in spite of it all. So I guess I base it on, you know, what's happening in the world, things that Mitchell talked about, things that you talked about, things that Keith talked about, you know, and sometimes I play on other hymns we've done, but I don't know. I know that I can't plan it too far in advance, because right at the beginning, I would try to, you know, think a week ahead of time. And then it would always be like 5 minutes before the service, I was running down the hallway trying to make a copy of some music or something because I had thought of something else. So it usually comes to me kind of within 24 hours of the service based on what's happening. And so, and for example, you know, Sarah Titchener, she had messaged me and said, when, what was his name from The Sound of Music? He just passed away.
Christopher Plummer. Yeah.
Yeah, he passed away, and Sarah Titchener said, "You've got to do Edelweiss as your postlude." And I so wanted to do that, but it was too late. You know, but that is just as an example, that would have been the, you know, the perfect thing to do, and it would have probably really made sense.
I love that. I tell people, like, it's if you end your stream before Faron's postlude, you are missing just the biggest Easter egg, because every week it's something different. And like we were talking before the podcast started, is in our live worship, we haven't done formal postludes in my time here, right? Because it wasn't needed in our context. Our church, when we meet in person, is very chatty, very informal, very personal.
Really.
And so there wasn't the need for this more formal, like, postlude space. You would just really, whatever the line was, you would play a few more bars of that as kind of like outro music as people wandered out. So I'm curious, like, what what was your thought process? And maybe this will trigger some of my thought process. Like, we decided we wanted an actual postlude after the benediction for this during this pandemic space.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're right. I think when we're in person in congregation is really chatty, which is what's so great about our congregation is everybody talks to each other, everybody knows each other, everybody's shaking hands. And so, there was never a real postlude or a real need for one, because people, the second you would say go in peace, it was, everybody stood up and was talking, and the kids were running around and stuff. And so you're right, we never really needed one. But when we had to start live streaming, I think what happened was it did feel strange to just cut it, right? And so many things felt strange about switching from in-person to streaming online, because it felt a bit cold, and it felt a bit just kind of, with everything going on, it felt weird to just kind of leave people there in silence with like a black screen, and it's over now. And so I think we all felt that we needed something to, send people off with. And I think it was initially my idea that I would just do what I always did. I mean, I didn't really, I would just kind of vamp on the last hymn or something. But I think that first or second Sunday, it was a weird time, and everybody felt really strange. And then there was a lot going on in the world, the Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of the protests were happening and things like that. And so I think what did I do first? The very first one, I just decided that I would do Imagine, right? Didn't I do Imagine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it just, I think it felt right to do that. And I think it was soothing for me to play that. And I think it was a nice message to people, because I sort of realized that, you're preaching, we're sending a message from the first minute to the last minute. So I do consider my postludes, even if they're not sacred music, I think they do send a message. I hope.
Think so too.
Yeah.
Well, and Dexter, the way that you pair the outro footage, right? We've done some drone footage that you took. What was that? Easter Sunday that you took that first
Easter. I think it was. It was Easter Sunday. Oh yeah, it was Easter Sunday 2020.
I think it was. Yeah. So like the way that you pair that, I think I would say it's in the same vein as Faron, what you said, is like we want to transition more gently out into the world, right? We don't want to just say like, well, see you later,
Right.
Oh, hi, Mom.
Yeah,
my mom is watching. Hello, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
But
it's one of those things where I try to pair. I mean, I'm trying to go seasonally, just from seasons also. So summertime is not going to look as great, but springtime is going to look fantastic.
Gorgeous,
of thing. To do it again. Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said in pairing what visually you see along with the audible side of it also with the postlude.
And what's so special about that to me is that I think each of you brings this gift of, it doesn't have to be quote unquote Christian to still be sacred, right? Mm-hmm. There's nothing inherently Christian about drone footage of East Dallas, right? There's nothing inherently Christian about, a David Bowie song, but we connect the dots, people. We start to say like there is sacredness in all different aspects of our life, whether that's listening to a song on the radio or, appreciating a beautiful spring tree. So that to me is what bridges us out into the world. Like it makes us feel like this Sunday thing has something to do with the rest of our lives,
Yeah. And I would say, so, as somebody who's not as engulfed in music as y'all are from a professional level, I think there's a misnomer out there that your spirituality or the way that you find God through music has to be found through what I put quote unquote Christian music is out there. I mean, my biggest, deepest spiritual moments comes through a band called Sigur Rós, which is an Icelandic band that does not speak, it rarely speaks English. They do their own made up language, which always humors me in some way, but it draws me in a way, in a place that I'm not drawn with other things that Michael W. Smith would never get me too in some way,
Yep.
if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
I get that. I think that's that actually ties really well too into one of our hymns yesterday, and I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but it was a new text that I don't think we'd ever sung before, but it was to an old tune that everybody would know as a Christmas tune. It's the Greensleeves tune. Bum, ba, da, 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 da.
What Feast of Love?
What Feast of Love?
Oh,
Thank
there
you.
you go.
Yeah.
I
See,
should
we
probably
got our
look up
fact
that.
checker in the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that I think is too something that I try to do is like, how can we as a people start to seam together the edges of our lives, right?
Mhm.
And we say like, oh, I remember this tune. I know it. It feels familiar. It feels safe, but it has this fresh new text that's going to introduce something new about God to me.
Yeah. You definitely put me in a Christmas moment with that song also. And I'm like, man, I'm ready for Christmas again.
Well, that's so funny because I never thought of Greensleeves as a Christmas.
Right.
I think I used to play it on the piano. It was one of the first things that I remember learning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I thought the melody was so beautiful. So now I could probably understand. Probably drove my mother crazy playing Christmas music.
Can I tell a fun fact about Greensleeves for me?
Tell a fun fact.
The first time that I remember Greensleeves was this lady that played it on a bandsaw on Home Improvement back in the mid '90s. She played.
I remember this.
Yeah, and I'm like, what am I listening to? I'm like, I really like it, but it's really weird. And that's my first memory of Greensleeves is this Home Improvement episode, which cracks me up. Yeah, which was a Christmas episode also.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I used to watch that show, but I do not remember that particular episode.
It must be on YouTube, Dex. Maybe you can post the.
Oh yeah, let's find it.
Post a link in the phone.
Well, yeah, because yesterday, I mean, before we leave this topic, we could just geek out about this for a long time. Yesterday's postlude was "The Scientist" by Coldplay, right?
Yeah.
And I think I don't know. I would just encourage people to start to, allow yourselves to see God in places where you don't think God will show up. I think that's the most easy way to say it is you got us in a Coldplay mood, Faron, and our family listened to Coldplay like all day yesterday.
Coldplay, there's something magical about Coldplay. Everybody,
really
even if you pretend you don't like Coldplay, it's one of those things where everybody does, but maybe you just don't. You're like, you don't talk about it, but everybody loves Coldplay. Everybody knows they love Coldplay.
Yes. So in your comment section, you have Home Improvement version of Greensleeves.
Yes.
Click at your own risk.
I can't wait to watch that. Yeah.
It's an SD. It's not HD, everyone. I apologize.
No, Home Improvement was long before that. Yes, Patience, God shows up in juvenile prisons. Right. So Patience does ministry with youth who are imprisoned, and that's such a powerful place to find God. And I think actually that's part of what Keith was talking about in his sermon too, when he invited us to really participate in the story of Jesus and saying, when you eat, if you're eating alone or if you're eating with family, then you pull up an extra chair for Jesus, right? And that may sound a little cheesy. When I first heard Keith say that, I did admit to chuckling to myself because it reminded me of Christian camp days when it was like, leave room for Jesus. But but truly, I mean, if you're aware of where Jesus is showing up, it could be, when you're eating a meal, it could be when you're listening to music on the radio. Lindsay said Sigur Rós and Coldplay shows are like being at church. Yeah. I've been to concerts that the performers did a way better job getting their audience to sing with them than some churches I've attended, right? And how do you unlock this? You have thousands of people who want to sing with these leaders on stage. And for me, how to unlock that in a church situation, right? Where people feel comfortable enough and excited enough that they want to do that too.
Yeah,
absolutely. There is, what was it? Chance the Rapper, the Coloring Book album.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was one of the better worship albums I've heard in a very long time. There's some deep spiritual, there's other ones that aren't. There's language cautionary for everyone out there. But
Yeah.
from that side, like there's some deep spiritual songs in there that are just fantastic with this choir that has a background into it also. I'm like, man, people, there's things out there you can search for and find that are really, really powerful moments if you allow them to be.
Mm-hmm. I think too, this goes back to what I preached on the Sunday before last, is as much as we're talking about, oh, I love this kind of music, I love that, oh yes, I want to hear more Coldplay and worship, there's a both and for me that if we're challenged to move past our own personal preferences, right, we might prefer the Coldplays and the Sigur Rós of the world, or we might prefer the more traditional hymnody. But how do we open up our minds and our preferences enough to say God is showing up in both of them, in all of them?
Right.
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead, Faron.
I think what ties into that in teaching a lot, we talk about the pedagogical arch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is where you take somebody from what they know to what they don't know. And you always have to, it's better to start from a place of something they know when you're taking them from something that they don't know. And so that all ties together, I think, in the way that you program worship, because for instance, even the Greensleeves melody, and if we're talking about concerts and getting people to sing with them, those people are singing because they know that music, either the melody or they know that music word for word. And so, they're inspired to do it. And so that's a great example of tying it all together, I think, is taking a melody that they know and then giving it a new meaning. And so that can be said about even all the way down to Coldplay, right? I mean, I found that the Scientist, my post, I find that song to be very kind of, it has religious undertones in certain ways. I mean, it's about wandering and kind of searching. And so, yeah, no, I think you're doing it right, Rebecca. I think you're doing it right.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, we'll just have to see when everybody's back in person again. We'll have to really see how much they sing, and everybody might be a little bit out of practice, but
I think so. Honestly, I think that's a really good word too. And I've talked with our choir members, but also I've talked with like people, friends and colleagues who are just saying, man, I feel, like you said, really out of practice. I feel like my voice is hoarse, or I don't sound like myself, or I feel weird just singing alone in my living room. So it is going to be an interesting transition back when we start to meet in person. And I think that's what, so like a year ago or 10 months ago, we were thinking, oh yeah, 3 or 4 weeks, we get this under control, we'll be back in person. I think the longer this has gone on, the more we realize it's not going to be a light switch. It's not going to be, one Sunday we decide cases are low enough, we're all going to be back in person. And that I used to think, oh man, I really want everything to go back to normal. But I think I'd rather have this sort of slow reentry where we do relearn how to be in person together. And we do, I'll probably program really familiar, really easy hymns for the first several weeks that we're back.
That's right. Yeah.
Because we need to ground people again. It's you can say it's like riding a bike, but man, I haven't ridden a bike in years. And I guarantee if I got on a bike today, my muscles would be so sore.
It would take a little.
So,
you're right. I think it will be a coming home experience, but I think it does have to be gradual. Probably, we don't all have whiplash,
I think there's one thing that I've always loved, especially about what you do, Rebecca, and what WRUMC does, that our transition from this in-person to online thing, we acknowledged as a church that this is not the same as being in person. The online experience is vastly different, and it communicates and it speaks differently to people than what in-person does. So you have to be open and recognize that this is something that's not of the norm, that you need to find something that works along with people that would sing along at home. And that's not like to say you do dumbed down songs where they're real easy and stuff like that, but it's something that you kind of look for the familiar. Like I read an article the other day of why everyone is watching old shows right now. They're not watching anything new, just because we're finding moments at home that we want we're looking for that comfort. We're looking for that peace. And I think there's going to be a transition that happens for people as a whole that takes us from being at home to being back in person and still loving every minute of being there, essentially.
Yeah. And Dexter, what I think you do and you help us do so well is to name that difference, right?
Yeah.
When we are online, we are not trying to replicate 100% what it would feel like to be in person. We are leaning into the differences.
Right.
Right? I mean, like, we're getting more up close and personal with our preachers than we could ever do in person, because we don't have the 5 camera angle thing. So it's a different experience to see all of Mitchell's expressions or all of Keith's expressions instead of seeing him up on the steps of the stage preaching out to everybody. And that doesn't make it better or worse, but it is different.
Yeah, one of the biggest things for sure that I've always kind of pushed, even when it was hard for some people to understand, the thought of feeling people's presence over video is so much harder to do than in person. Like in person, you feel the energy of everyone else. You feel the energy from the stage, and you don't have to be chest shot up on the person to be able to feel that moment. But when you interpret that to video or at home, you want to be able to connect with that person, and you can't just set up a wide angle shot and expect everything to be the same as being in person, because you want to be able to feel that. And there's a lot of feel in this, and you want to be able to have those feelings of connection and intimacy and community and whatnot. You want to be able to sing along with the person that's on screen. You just want to be able to have those moments.
And we were we were joking that some people may not have ever seen your face, Faron, because started worshiping with us during the pandemic.
That's right,
and all we see is your hands on Sunday mornings. So
I know. Well, it's funny because I think people would always see my face, but then people after service would come and tell me how they always tried to get seats on the left so they could see my hands, and so now I thought, okay, well, I should really show my hands. That's what people like to see when somebody's playing the piano. And then everybody says, we want to see your face. So maybe by the time this is all over, I'll get both.
Right.
Both, maybe. Yeah.
I do want to, we're going to wrap up because Faron has to go teach piano. But we are going to wrap up. I wanted to bring forth a couple of comments. My mom says she was a music minister for 40 something years. And she said, remember that conversation with a choir member where she said the most worshiping that you can do for your spirit is to sing music that you dislike for the benefit of your fellow worshiper who loves it. And I think that's such a powerful thing too, that we can set our preferences aside and maybe we love it and that's awesome. I don't think God asks us to be miserable, but we're doing it as a service to our friend. And then Lindsay says, I love watching people sing. Yeah, I think like that's the energy that I'm most looking forward to when we get back in person.
Yep, right.
But it can still happen, right? Because we see our choir members and our folk band members in the a cappella videos that we do, and you can see them, if you look really closely, you can see them sort of like keeping the beat with their head or counting until they come in at the right time. And it's really, really neat.
Yeah, I would just some breaking news. Daft Punk has split up after 28 years. Just so
what?
It's music. It's music related. So I figured I'd throw that
That's
out there.
Fun.
Yeah, this should go viral now. We said Daft Punk. We'll hashtag that here in a second.
Right. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, tie this all into it. We'll get caught in this.
That's funny. Also, Faron, apparently you sometimes record with your smartwatch and sometimes without. And
that's right. Yeah.
And people are like, wait, do we have 2 accompanists? What's happening?
I would like to see you. I would like you to start a workout whenever you play piano, just to see how your heart rate tracks throughout the song.
Oh,
like if
when
the
I
climax,
conduct,
your heart's beating more, or if you pull back a little. Like I'm just curious about that stuff.
I will say. Go ahead, Faron.
I always wonder if it affects the way it counts my steps, because there are certain days where it says I've like doubled my step count, and I'm thinking,
I'm sure.
No, I don't think that's true. I think it's because I'm, yeah, I think it must be counting it as steps. I think, but yeah.
When I conduct, it counts as so. When I'm like doing a full choir rehearsal, it says because it's a very fluid motion. It's like very smooth.
Right.
So it's like, oh, you swam for 90 minutes, and I was like, I certainly did not.
I certainly did not, but it's still a workout. Conducting
It is
still a workout.
I was a drum major senior year. I know everything about the conducting.
Yeah, that's for sure a workout.
Especially bad conducting, which is what I did.
Yeah,
the majority of the time. So
yeah, bad conducting is even more of a workout.
Right.
Well, friends, thank you so much for being here, and thank you all for watching and commenting. We really love seeing you and hearing from you. So make sure that you stay tuned in with us. We have several things going on this Lent. If you have not planted your seed yet, I will be fully transparent and say I have not planted any seeds because it was too cold to be outside. So I am hoping to go today to Lowe's or Home Depot and get some seeds and plant those as our Lenten blend together. And join us next Sunday.
Perfect.
All right. Take care.
Right. Thank you.